two amazing guests joining us. If you've seen this little indie movie that's out right now called Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, these guys did a lot of the action design on that film. Please welcome to Hard NOC Life, Chris Cowan and Young Lee.
Yo.
What's going on, guys?
We are so thrilled and excited to have you guys join the podcast. We, as you can probably tell, I have the action figures back here. We're huge fans of Shang-Chi. And to have you guys on the podcast is amazing because, if anything, the one superlative this movie has been getting is the best action in the history of the Marvel Universe, and you guys are responsible for that. So, congratulations. How does it feel to be part of the #1 movie in the world?
Oh man,
Jinx.
Yeah, crazy, really crazy. Like, and humbling for sure to be able for people saying, you know, that it's the best action, and you know, like it's hard for me to like fully embrace it because we have buddies who worked on Winter Soldier, which is, you know, like, you know, known as like pretty much toe to toe the best action. So like, I don't know, just to even be in that conversation is really cool.
I feel like someone's gonna hate me for saying this, but I think Shang-Chi is the better, not just because you guys are here, but like I think it had better fight scenes. So and I love Winter Soldier, but Shang-Chi is currently like moved up to #2 for me in Marvel top movies. So
whoa, #2.
Yes, number 1 is Thor Ragnarok, just because like, I love that. I love Tessa Thompson. I was nice having someone on screen who somewhat looks like me, at least racial wise.
Yeah.
And I really love just that shot of her when she's on the what do you call that? Not
the Pegasus.
The Pegasus. And she's coming down. Like that shot.
Yeah, it's badass.
Like, probably my favorite of all.
Yeah,
like
she's
Marvel,
great.
But
she's also my favorite in that film as well. Yeah, she's great. I mean, like, it's crazy that Shang-Chi has done as well as it was, because like we came in knowing like, oh man, this is pretty good, but like when we sat and watched the movie ourselves, finally all cut together, everything, like all the VFX done, it just blew. We walked away like mind blown, and we're just like, so good. To people like, we can't take credit for all that. I mean, it was like a massive,
right.
So many cooks in that, and but man, the flavors were there.
Well, before we get into it, I wanted to ask you guys, like, you're both credited as action designers, and Chris, I actually watched your video on Corridor where you were, you know, reacting to a bunch of stunt work that you were responsible for. Can you describe what it means to be an action designer, and how is that different from like the stunt coordinator and all the other like roles on a film that's doing an action movie? What does the action designer do?
Sure, like, and I'm gonna go off of Young actually made a really good description, because we've been trying to figure out how to describe what an action designer does, because it's still a very new role. And I guess the best way to describe it is that we're the filmmakers within the stunt department.
Yeah,
we're the filmmakers within the stunt department, and you know, we shoot early concepts of what the fight should be, from the choreo, from the camera, from the edit, from, you know, we're almost in a way directing these small little sequences to pitch and present to, you know, the powers that be, our second unit directors, our main unit directors, the producers, and seeing if this is something that they would, you know, want to be on board for. And then, you know, from there we get notes and mold it into the vision that, you know, the whole, I guess, collective wants to see.
Right.
Yeah. And like the process in which that happens is like, we get the script, we take a look at it, then we start with what we call vignettes. That's part of the big part of the process. Normally, typically, doesn't happen every movie. I think Shang-Chi was the only movie we didn't do vignettes on.
Like super vignette, right.
But normally we'll do vignettes. Vignettes are basically, after looking at through the script, we'll do just small showcase pieces of like, oh, these are cool moments for like, oh, we have a guy with a robot arm. What are some cool like things that he could do? But just out of context, not really involved in story. The first thing we do is just come up with cool gags, cool moves. We add some visual effects to it to make it cool. Once we got the vignettes, then we have a base to build the characters from. Then we go into looking at each scene, and different people will be assigned different scenes. A lot of times we'll come together to build scenes together. And then we kind of, it's like the same thing as making a movie. Like you're building your shot list, like what you need. And then you work with the directors to get like, what is it they want for that scene? Then you build it, you do your first pass, and it's like making your first like action short film within that contained story. And then we work with the stunt people to shoot and edit, and the stunt coordinator is someone who watches out for the safety of everything, making sure no one gets hurt, and also how to get like the best performance for those stunt gags. And then that's all workshopping. Then we present the passes to the directors, producers, and it's all a discussion from there, what they like, what they don't like. Like I said before, on Marvel film, we'd be like, on this one, we'll get the producers going, well, that's too much like Doctor Strange. Can we have another idea?
Right.
Or we already did that on Black Widow. That kind of thing, which is cool, And then it's a back and forth thing until the final. Then until we all happy with something we like.
Yeah.
I always joke that like, and Dominic, you're a screenwriter, so you can confirm or not, but like oftentimes I feel like when you're a screenwriter and you're writing the story of a movie, you set up all the characters, you set the story, and then you get to the fight scene, and all you write is they fight. And then it's like the next scene. It's like you guys, that's where you guys come in and you blow up the part where it says they fight, and then actually bring in like the things that like Shang-Chi's supposed to do and stuff, right?
With the writing, the best thing for us that helps us with the writing is giving us the pacing. If the writing is there and it gives us the pacing, that's the most helpful thing. Yeah, it's hard to write choreography and like
right. As long as we know the key beats, like for example, like the bus scene, we knew that they're coming for the pendant, and then the next thing we know, the big thing is that the brake line gets cut, and then he defeats the goons first, and then Razorfish shows up, then he gets up, and then he gets into the fight. And like, as long as we know those beats, like those key things, we're sort of filling in the gaps and sort of pitching ideas of, what could fill in those gaps, really.
Yeah. And in the writing, like we always knew the bus driver was going to go out at some point, and we always knew that Katie would take over the control of the bus, and that it would crashing into a bunch of other cars and stopping at the end.
But stuff like the actual choreography, stuff like the fact where you have the old boy kind of homage where Shang-Chi's going, that's all you guys kind of coming up with that, right?
Yeah, it's like a back and forth. Again, it was like Destin wanted an old boy moment, and then we serviced that. So that's sort of what we do.
Dominic, does that help you next time you have to write a fight scene in one of your screenplays? You know what to do?
No, I've always been curious, because I haven't made a huge study of the Marvel shooting scripts because they're hard to find, like they're freaking the holy grails, but I'm always curious when they get to that point, how much is written. Some people do just write they fight, and some people, but it makes perfect sense as explained with the beats.
And we get storyboards too. Like the storyboards help. Like the laptop, the gag where he takes the girl's laptop and like uses it to block. Like that came from storyboards. Storyboards help a lot. They help us so much with that process.
Well, how about like the fact that you guys, you weren't just homaging Old Boy, but like of all of the fights in the movie, the bus fight is the most Jackie Chan, right? Like and Simu's performance too, right? Like where he kind of winks at the girl, he uses his jacket. Like, was that written in the script? Was that like kind of you guys, or was that Brad Allen's kind of influence? Like how did that
Brad? That was Brad, definitely. Yeah. It wasn't
R.I.P. by the way. R.I.P. Brad Allen.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
He's the one that like really wanted to pay homage to Jackie in that, and Dustin too. The thing was both of them really. It was Brad was the one who's like, we gotta have like a jacket gag. And like we did like a gazillion versions of it, and he wasn't satisfied with any of it. You know, it wasn't until like we combined like all the fight coordinators choreo pieces together, we came up with something that was like really cool.
Yeah, because we were throwing all kinds of Jackie at the wall first. We were like, okay, maybe it's very, you know, maybe it's very comedic Jackie. Oh, maybe it's very serious Jackie. Maybe it's, you know, Rumble in the Bronx. No, wait, maybe it's gorgeous. No, maybe it's. So we were like trying all kinds of, you know, we're throwing everything at the wall.
I think Chris, with your first pass at the bus, like that was one of the things, like, you know, there was a lot of like, there was that comedic beat where it was finding those, like, should we go more comedy or is it more like hardcore, like Donnie style, like, you know, right. It was, I think at the end of the day, it was like, because and that's the process. It's like, you don't want to be like, you want to find something that speaks, this is neither Jackie or Donnie or Jet Li, like it's Shang-Chi. Mm-hmm. And it was, that was a hard journey actually. Pinpointing like, what is his fighting style? That took a long time.
Especially because the character itself was modeled so much on Bruce, I think, especially in the early days. It, you know, I think, you know, I've said this before, like my expectation going into the movie, going into the trailers, was like, I assumed you guys were going to do like an Enter the Dragon kind of, I didn't realize it was going to be like all this like mystical shit, right? Like I just thought, because in the comics, Shang-Chi is just a guy who's really good at Kung Fu. Sometimes he's a spy.
He's
and like
basically Bruce Lee.
He's Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon. And so, but the fact that you guys kind of like brought all of this other, like the wuxia stuff and all this other fantastical elements was something I didn't think was going to happen in a Shang-Chi movie, to be honest.
It took a lot of time. Yeah. Chris, good call in the intro of the bus. Like it wasn't in a lot of the beginning passes, but the 1-inch punch I thought was pretty cool at the beginning, right off the top. I mean,
that was you, Chris?
Yeah,
that's sort of introduces his whole style, right?
Brad came to me and he said he just wanted some sort of stylized 1-inch punch. I mean, you know, it's 1-inch punch in heavy quotations, obviously, because he moves in pretty, he covers distance and you know, nails the dude in the stomach. But we still really wanted that iconic pose after it's after he makes impact, you know, and you have Simu sitting there like, wow, like, you know,
and then the score kicks in. That's the best part, is that when the music kicks in.
Yeah.
And you know shit's about to go down.
Exactly.
Yeah. Everybody was on that. And I have to give props
everybody.
To like Andy. Everybody, like Palm, John, Guillermo Griswold, but like Andy Cheng, like he really like he never gave up on that scene. Like he threw everything and he workshopped the shit out of that.
He kept eyes on it the whole time.
He kept going hard. And sometimes it gets a little discouraging because it's like you're going through so many passes and you know, I think we've had like, honestly, I think we have like, in terms of choreo, like probably close to like 70 versions of the bus.
The bus was crazy.
It's nuts. I think it's the most versions we've had for any scene that we've done.
Just the bus alone, yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you guys do all of the stunts? Because I like all of the stunt scenes. Did you guys design them all? Because I really just love the one between Paula and Tony. It's so beautiful. Like, did you guys do that too?
That was mostly Chris and Peng Zhang.
And Peng, yeah.
That was their scene. That was their scene.
When that scene was going on, I was like, this is definitely in the top 5 Marvel alone, just this. And it was just so beautiful and graceful, and like it was executed so well. Like you guys did, that was just beautiful. Like I talked about that when we were reviewing the movie, that how well that was itself. Like
thank you.
Yeah. You know, one thing I loved about that, maybe Chris, you can elaborate a little more, is this is I think from an action design, when you ask like what does an action designer sort of do, it's like you could feel the story of this romance building, and talk about it.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you know, like I guess when I say when I was saying earlier about, as an action designer, like you don't want to just make things just choreo. Like you just don't want choreography for the sake of choreography. You need choreography, and then you need these beats, you need these moments that tell a story. So we're not just looking at, cool punches and kicks the whole time, because obviously if we had did that, we wouldn't have had the love story that we were trying to tell, through Wenwu and Lee's fight. But like it's really cool. Like I got to work with Pong on that. He had the idea for that entire fight. Like him and his, really in his mind, and then his team like figured out the choreo for that. And my involvement was just to come in, and he was like, he really admired the way that I shot and, edited, sequences like that. And he was like, just do your thing. Like, just capture it. And I was like, down, like, and me and Pong had a really great, like, sort of like flow when we started making vises. It was just really chill. It was really cool. And it was just, we got to make some really cool sequences that I'm like super proud of. But to Young, what you were saying is that, like it's really cool to be able to, to take these choreo moments, and Pong understands this as well. So he knew that he wanted, like the looks between, the characters, and we were trying, to figure out, where the right moment was. Like, like we obviously we wanted cool back and forth, but we knew we had to sprinkle in these,
when she pulls him, or so when Wenwu pulls her in, that whole rap.
Well, and then you don't cast Tony Leung and not give him a scene where he's falling in love with someone just with his eyes, right? Like that's the whole point of having Tony Leung in a movie.
Right.
Young mentioned earlier that you guys have worked together on like several films going back. Can you tell us about the first time you guys worked together and what movie that was on, and what's it like just kind of like breaking into the business, as guys who like just had YouTube channels and was like going from there to like the #1 movie in the world? Like what has that journey been like?
That was, I think we met on Wonder Woman first, but then it turned into Kingsman 2 because Brad left that show to do Kingsman 2. And that was fun, man, because
so fun.
It was, I mean, we were surrounded by mostly like stunt veterans. But we came from this YouTube world of just like, let's just do this all and have fun while we do it, so it's cool to have another person vibe with that and having the fun and not taking it so seriously. That was super cool. I think people found that refreshing. I think we were definitely on like our best behaviors as well when we first
for the
came
first
in. So we were really shy, but thank God, like, Brad was really, really generous with the both of us. He really, like, even though we're like complete noobs, he gave us trust to do. So I don't think anyone else did that. He did, like, what was so great about him, and we're like so lucky that he was our boss, versus anybody else. But he saw talent in us, and he trusted us and was like, guys, like, you want to do this whole scene, go for it. You know what I mean? And he put us together to work on that diner scene in Kingsman 2 at the end. And that was great. That was a crazy ride. I mean, we were so green. I wish we could go back and do that way better now, but like,
I know, right? I mean, well, that's just an artist mentality. Like, as soon as you're done with something, you're like, why did I do that? This could have been so much cooler. But and also like credit to Matthew Vaughn, because he told us straight off the bat, he was like, guys, just like think completely outside of the box. Like, whatever the box is, get the hell out of it and just go crazy, and we'll scale back if we need to. But he was like, just
don't hold back.
Go nuts. Like don't hold back.
That's true. And that came from Matt. The trust also came from Matthew, and like being a fan of his work and him going and just telling us that was like, that was such a cool, like an amazing opportunity. And then also one thing I learned a lot working with Matthew so much is he has so many crazy ideas.
Yep.
I mean, those Kingsman movies alone are already, I think they're all on display in Kingsman.
He knows how to like push the edge of like what's between between two, because he himself also kind of goes crazy with the idea. He just lets it. That's the thing I like. He's not restrictive. He's like, play, go for broke, and then we'll pull it back if we need to. But I want to see what's the most craziest thing you can come up with.
What's the edge, right?
Yeah. So that's cool. I think the first time was one of the first most nerve-wracking experiences when we started shooting, was when we'd be like talking to Brad and looking at the monitor and be like, oh man, what, like, it would be cool if like Taron did it with a little bit of this, and then he's like, you go tell him.
Right. Yeah, right.
So are you guys on set? I know, like, Chris, again, going back to that Corridor Digital video I watched, sometimes you guys are even like behind the camera in some of the.
Chris does a lot, and he does most of the camera work in our film.
What is that like?
Kingsman 2, Young jumped on a camera for a shot.
Yeah,
too.
we did a handoff in the car, in the taxi. That was great.
So we're literally right there, and like Young was saying, like that was the first time that I had been, had a camera in my hand, and I'm right there face to face with the actors, and I'm in it. So when we hear notes like that, we all have headsets on, and we're all sort of on our own sort of channel, between our Brad's sort of department. And when you hear notes like that, never being on a film set, like, oh yeah, you tell the actor, and you're like, oh,
what?
Damn, okay, all right.
Yeah, and at first it's so
nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and it's like you just feel like you're so careful at first, and I think we realized later, like, you just tell it straight up, and it's way more easier that way.
As soon as you become like chill, like it's cool, but like hearing that note off the bat, you're like, oh wow, okay, I guess I'm interfacing with them now. Cool.
yeah. I remember it was just like, oh really? Okay.
Right.
Then immediately you turn off the mic, so no one hears.
Exactly. So no one else hears. Yeah, like you're like, all right.
Yeah, usually when we do all the action design and pre-production, when the movie goes to shoot, we're there on set with second unit, with Brad's unit, covering a lot of the action. So what Chris typically does is he becomes the camera operator. Also, he's shooting most of our stuff in the Viz world anyway, so he already knows all the moves. So it's very like easy, and I become the on-set editor on our team. So I'm looking at the Viz that we built, and I'm cutting the whole sequence as we're shooting it. And because I also built up all the assets, the visual effects assets in pre-Viz world, then I have those assets to pull into, so I can just put it into the shots that we've already done on set, and like have like some temp VFX and everything ready to go as we're shooting it. And
this dude is quick. This dude is quick, because like I'll literally shoot the shot, we'll get a take, and I'm like, okay, I think we got a good one. And then I'll go to the tent where Brad and Young are sitting. I'm like, Young, did that work? Like, did we get a good one? And he's like, yeah, look. I'm like, what?
He's already cut it together.
He said it's already in. It's got visual effects applied. And I'm like, oh, all right.
So like the action design department, it seems like a relatively new concept in the world of filmmaking, at least having a dedicated department like this, because it sounds like you guys are very much a hybrid of like stunts and VFX and editing and all. Like you kind of like incorporate DP even, right? Like you said, you're actually holding the camera. Like it's like you guys kind of take elements of like a lot of it and put it together, right?
I think that's, well, I mean, credit goes to the people we collaborate with, because like that's the cool thing with our particular unit, is that like Chris will be the liaison with the DPs. He'll build that relationship with the camera operators and the DPs and the lighting department, and they know Chris, and Chris can communicate everything that we have planned before we go to shoot it, and then that conversation can start. And then for myself, I usually work very closely with the visual effects department and editorial, And you know, so we start that discussion earlier on, trying to like problem solve. Okay, how are we gonna do this? You know, I like for the Wenwu Lee fight, that first forest fight. I remember that end where, you know, where he like, she saves him from falling down the tree, and then he like spins and then lands into the
water.
Yeah.
I remember I was talking to Joe Farrell, our VFX super, about like, you know, the shot, how that would work and how we would comp all that move in and switch from the double to Tony. And we were both like trying to problem solve on the day, because I think something changed. I can't remember whether it was the side we shot it on, I remember just, we were talking out and like trying not so hard to trust that this is gonna work.
Right.
And it's so cool that it ended up working on the day, you know, which is, and then props obviously to Chris Townsend, the main unit VFX super, who just oversaw the whole post. But man, it looked great.
It came out great.
Last thing I want to get to, Young said earlier before we started recording that working on this movie has changed his life. And you guys, sounds like you've worked on huge movies leading into Shang-Chi. I mean, you've been in the Star Wars universe, you've worked on Kingsman, Wonder Woman, like big ass movies, but Shang-Chi is the one that changed your life. And for Young, I think it's literal, because he met and married his wife on Shang-Chi. But I wanted to ask this question to you, Chris, as someone who was working very closely with Young and who's worked with Young on several films over several years. Did you see Munger and Young? Like, were you like observing from a distance and going, wait, what's going on over there? Like, tell me about what you were witnessing as we were making this movie.
It was not even a question of like, oh, what's it? No, it was 100% like, I was like Young told me that he, in a few words, because I don't want to say what he said.
You said,
but yeah, I can say it.
Yeah.
Okay, Mung comes in to train one day, and Young says to me, we're sitting at our station, we're editing, and Young says, hey, I'll be right back. Watch me go make this girl my wife. Because he was smitten. This man had fallen.
It's so beautiful.
Like, and he just gets up and he leaves. And I was like, oh, okay. And lo and behold, these two are married now. So crazy.
And I was just joking at that time. I wasn't even really mean it. It was just, yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
And this was Mung's first movie.
Yeah, it's Munger's very first movie.
I mean, how do you go from like not being in a movie to like, not only are you in a movie, now you get action figures and Funko Pops. Oh, and you also marry the action designer. Is that like, I think that's not how things are supposed to be in Hollywood, right? Like, that's...
I don't know. Like, it was all like very, very innocent. You know, I don't know. It's just crazy that it just, none of us expected anything out of it.
Well, I mean, typically, like on all the films, like we don't become that close with the cast. I guess that was what was so special about Shang-Chi, is that, you know, we were all around the same, you know, age gap. And I mean, to be honest, like we've been around some age gaps, like the same age gaps on other films, but for some reason we all just clicked on this film.
Do you think it's because it's more like people of color that you got to work with, that it made it easier to connect?
I think so, honestly.
Right.
I honestly think so. Normally, typically on every, not to, you know, but every other film that we've worked on, we're like the only minorities on set. In like a sea of white, which is nothing wrong with that, but it's just, you know.
And you can say that here. You're on the Nerds of Color. You can say that here. It's fine.
Hey, there it is. Right.
Yeah. So like,
we know. That's why we exist.
Like my first day on Kingsman 2, people thought I was the freaking IT guy.
Oh man.
You know. And it's just I think a lot of and it's not just that. It's like, you know, having someone like Destin as a director.
Yep.
Because you know, like, he's a person of color. That sets the tone. It just changes how I think people treat you, you know. It's just weird to say, but I don't think I really noticed the difference until stepping into a movie where it's full of minorities. You know, I'm sure the experience is similar to people who worked on Black Panther as well.
Right. I bet that was awesome to see.
Yeah. And it's
Chris,
crazy.
are you working on Black Panther too? I'm kidding.
I wish. I wish I was. I wanted to work on that. I wanted to work on
I mean, I understand Marvel NDAs, so even if you are, you can't say it. So.
No, legit, like 100%. I am not. Okay. I am not. I would. Yeah. I
mean,
I wish.
It's crazy. Like watching, we all do our own business, but like I have to say, like watching Chris, like working with side by side with him all these years, and like watching how he like directs his sets and the stunt guys and all the stunt visits was really, I mean, it sucks that we can't share a lot of that stuff, but like it's so cool to see, because like he has this presence on set a lot of times where like people just like, oh man, this guy's cool, I just want to like make him happy, and like it's like he has this presence, and I really want personally to see him direct a movie, and that's something like I hope we can do in the future together. We're doing so much like filmmaking. I'm like, let's take that step, and we've learned so much. We've learned so much from the directors that we worked with, like one of the coolest things was watching Destin direct the actors and seeing him build the drama on this film, because the drama was so freaking good on Shang-Chi. And also just his notes on like, where he wanted. I remember like when you were doing the father-son fight, where put the dialogue in to those beats, like how to, tell that story dramatically. Like that was so cool watching Destin work the actors. And we learned so much about that. And even in the meetings on like when, for him, for the story, like what didn't make sense, what made sense to him dramatically. He was so good with that. And then in contrast with Matthew, where he's got all these like ideas, and he really like tries to stretch it as far as it can go. Even with the whole oh no, I can't spoil it. Oh shit.
You can't say anything about the Kingsman.
Well, I'll ask, I know I said the last question was last, but like, I was just saying earlier, like, action design seems like a relatively new concept in filmmaking, but does every movie have an action design team now, or is this still something that like not every movie? Because some movies that are billed as action films have some shitty action, and it's like a movie like that could use some action design on it probably, like, and I'm talking about like shaky cam fights or fights where they like just cut the shit out of it where you don't see what's happening. I'm not talking about any specific movie, calling out anyone in particular, but there are, but you know what I mean, but like there's so many films where it's like, the guy throws a punch and it takes like 5 cuts before it lands on somebody else.
That kills me, man.
I send Chris, when I watch movies like that, I send Chris the videos of like,
he does, and
I
really
like
just
but is that something that you think is going to like be more, because of like, again, movie like Shang-Chi, like so much of the praise is the action. The same thing with Kingsman. Like, do you think that's going to be something that's going to be more prevalent in the future, where every film has an art department, every film has a production design, and every film is going to have an action design? I mean, not every film, right? In the Mood for Love doesn't need action design, but like, every action movie will have action design going forward.
You would think, you would hope, but it also, like, because action design is such a niche sort of, job title and, position, it's dependent on the people within the department, because you'll find within a lot of stunt departments, the guys that are shooting the action, the guys that are shooting the previses are really just, a lot of them are just stunt guys with cameras, and they're not like, they didn't come from filmmaking just straight up like, I want to make films. They came up through like, I do choreography, or I'm a performer first, and then I'm choreographer, and now I'm playing with the camera. So you'll find that, and we've witnessed it, like you'll see that sometimes productions are not, they don't respond well to non-filmmakers, right?
Yeah.
To some of these visits, because they're like, they don't know what they're like, especially the camera departments. You know, they look at this and they're like, okay, we'll just do our own thing.
There's no line of communication yet.
Yeah, like, and I'm not, again, like, just like you were saying about, you know, I'm not talking about anyone in particular, but we have witnessed, and, you know, like, it's, I don't know how to describe it. Like, the action designer role is still so weird.
And
it's
a big part. It's a big testament to again, Brad Allen, who's such a advocate for action design, having people like us on the teams. He really pushed so hard for that. He knew what having different perspectives on the team does to the overall project, the quality of the project. And what I think, and I'm not, to be fair, we've never really worked on other teams before. So like, I don't know, I just know watching other movies, you'll never see credit for action designer in any
like
other
that,
movies.
right?
Like that. There'll be people on their team doing that work, but they'll never get credit for it. Which is actually kind of crazy, right?
It is, but like at the same time, like in action, even just the title action designer within our team could mean something completely different to another team. You know what I mean?
True. That's true.
Yeah.
Every team kind of works different, and that's the other thing. Like, Brad never gives choreography credit to anybody. Like, there'll be fight coordinator, and those are people leading choreography, but no one will have choreographer credit, because he knows, as much being from the Jackie Chan stunt team, that like no single person contributes to choreography. Like, everybody contributes to choreography. It's like a team effort.
Yeah.
A lot of time, and I have to give, like, that's something a lot of stunt performers don't get credit. After like working in this biz and seeing it, like, stunt performers really contribute to a lot of choreography as well.
100%. Stunt performers only also contribute to the film, and I feel like stunt people don't get enough credit just being part of the whole filmmaking process. So shouts to the stunt team.
Can I
across the board
jump in? For you're both angling towards being the director of feature or writer director of your features?
I want to write a film that features Chris directing. That's my goal.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yes. Yeah. And I want to direct this man's writing.
That sounds naturally good.
We are trying to, we are in the process right now of trying to make something. This guy's cranking out some brilliance currently right now. And
started or anything, let us know.
That sounds like it'll be hot. But specifically on Shang-Chi, I just wanted to, I bet you've been asked something like this before, but could you speak a little bit more about how you create the style of the action, just in the context of there are a lot of Marvel movies with martial arts, and there's also added context, there are a lot of Asian dudes doing some kind of martial arts movies. How do you
that's a great
create
question.
The style?
Here's the thing, like, there's a very distinct contrast between when you're in Ta Lo, of the style of filming, versus when you're in the real world, or like the bus, or like the scaffold. And part of that is because, and I think that's also by Brad's designs, that like he let Chris and Pengjan and really let Chris design all the camera and the edit for anything in Ta Lo between the father and the family. So the Li Wenwu fight and the father-son fight, part 1 and part 2, one with the staff, one with the rings. That's a lot of Chris's super cool style in there. And you can tell it's visually distinctly very different from everything else in the film. And I think that was really smart, because then, it creates this contrast when we're in the real world and we're doing like more of the stuff in the bus, which is a little more homage to like Hong Kong styled action. And that, it creates a different feeling for the story as well. I mean, I don't know, Chris, you want to add to that?
No, like that was the first thing that Brad mentioned to me. He mentioned that he knew that, at least, from the beginning, that he wanted to start off the the action very traditional, you know, paying homage, and he also knew that like my inspiration is very much through animation. I love, you know, I'm very influenced through, especially action design wise, through anime and just Eastern animation in general.
Check out. Don't you have something on YouTube where you did like a My Hero?
I did.
Short film,
buttload of things.
Yeah, I recommend you. I'll actually drop a link to that right here in the video, so you can check out this really dope live action MHA
I appreciate
video that you put together.
Yeah, Brad knows that that's my, you know, that's what gets me hyped. I love that kind of stuff, and I want to bring that stuff to a live action format, and you know, that's what I've been working on for the past, you know, decade. And he saw that like from the script immediately. He was like, when we get into Talo, and when, you know, Shang starts, you know, becoming the hero that we ultimately know him as at the end of the film, he said he really wanted that influence, and he wanted that vibe of, you know, the camera movement, and I thought that was really cool. I was like, oh, cool. Like, he was like, yeah, like when that happens, do your thing.
Yo,
like,
there's some straight up like speed lines behind Simu when he's like doing this in the air. I'm like, this is straight out of like Naruto or something.
We gotta shout out Bill Pope, because like he made all that shit look fire.
Yeah. He made it look so cool. Bill Pope.
Yeah. I think. What was your question, Dominic?
Just did you ever work with the Russo brothers on anything?
No, we have not.
I just
that
asked because like
awesome.
I feel like they're anime nerds in some way, and the couple things they do. No, that's my guess, but I was hoping someone could confirm it, because there's a lot of like Robotech shit that happens in that Endgame movie with the Iron Man, with the Iron Man arms flying around and stuff like that. I just was hoping some person could confirm that.
You know, a department that doesn't get enough credit also is visual effects department. They like when they're doing a lot of the CG, like purely CG shots, like that's all them. Like,
dude, when Iron Man and Rescue were going like back to back and shooting, and there was unibeams and like all kind. That was literal chills when I saw that. I was like,
that's what I mean. That's what I mean. It was Craig.
Yeah.
So so that's in there. I mean, I just wondered if they could confirm, you know, where their influences are coming from there.
But I think for sure Chris and Young need to like team up on a live action anime. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It needs to happen.
That would be great.
And I feel like we don't even need to kickstart it. That shit should be like greenlit at like the biggest studios in the world, because like these motherfuckers just did the #1 movie 3 weeks running. So
yes,
4 weeks. I'll pray 4 weeks.
I think that the difficulty.
Munger can star in it too, by the way.
Yeah,
there you go.
She'll gladly do that. But like, yeah, it's like I think part of the difficulty is just the recognition of what like people like us do. It's not really widespread knowledge. Like, you know, people don't really know.
They will. But, that's why you guys are here. That's why you guys are here.
Pop culture with a different perspective. Watch it on your screen. Hit play. So check this.